Tron Legacy arrived after the original film built a cult following in the decade since its release in 1982. The sequel comes with modern visual effects and a critically acclaimed soundtrack by Daft Punk. But as of yet, there's been no sign of the franchise it was supposed to spawn. So let's take a look and see what happened. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
Should have said greetings users or something.
Greetings, users. I would, but like users still just sounds like I'm saying losers. It's too close. You user.
I mean, I'll say hello, losers, at the start of the show. I'll take the heat.
Greetings, users. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. This is a science fiction movie podcast. We're here today to talk about Tron Legacy. We're doing a little kind of mini season of about a month or so of sequels, specifically number twos, of movies that we've already done. Not poop. Tara, can I not say the phrase number twos without you acting like a child?
Nope.
Good to know. So, yes, we did. Tron was actually relatively recent. We did the first Tron a few months ago. And I had seen the original Tron, you'd seen the original Tron, but I had not seen this. I had not seen Tron Legacy, which came out in 2010. Directed by Joseph Kosinski, who went on to do Oblivion, which I could tell actually watching this. I recognized a lot of Oblivion-ness in this. So, we'll talk about that.
Also, Maverick.
Oh, did it? Well, yeah, but I didn't recognize anything from Maverick. Technically, there's a plane bit, but I didn't really think of it. There was but I definitely got a sense of some Oblivion stuff in this. So, yeah, we'll start spoiler free anyway, as we always do. We'll give you warnings before we get to the spoilers. It's a sequel to Tron, of course, so, I mean, you kind of have to expect to have a little bit of knowledge or expect that I might spoil some things. But basically, Jeff Bridges' character of Kevin Flynn disappeared in 1989, which is a great year, by the way, just for the record, where he had a son who was about 8 or something, and he went missing, and then in present day, his son is now an adult. He now technically controls the majority of the corporation, because Flynn ended up with it after the last movie, and he is a troubled young man. He's got daddy issues because his dad disappeared without any explanation. And of course, he's going to end up inside the grid. And he may or may not find his father in the grid. So that's all I'll say for now. That's the basic gist of it. Do you disagree? You're giving me a slightly judgy through the smile look I'm getting right now.
No, I was just thinking about the movie.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about how it looks and how it compares to the looks of the first film. We'll talk about the cast, the effects, all that stuff, before we get into the spoilers, which is the meat of the plot and things like that. But I suppose I'll start, as I always do, by just simply asking Tara, how did you feel about Tron Legacy?
I am a big fan of this film. I saw it multiple times when it came out in the theaters. I loved it. I thought it's, and I still think that it's just one of the coolest movies ever made. It's got like just an incredible production design. Like they really took the idea of Tron, and like it seems pretty faithful to that. You have a lot of the same stuff, but it just makes it so much better and cooler. And of course, everything is like amplified by this incredible score from Daft Punk, that even if anything else was like happening in a different score was happening, I probably would still like the movie, but like the score is everything. Anyway, I'm more curious about what you think of the film.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure going into this on the movie, because you talked it up quite a bit for some time, and when it was coming out, it kind of just passed me by. Like I didn't really think about it. You
A
know?
lot of people have that attitude, yes.
There's a Tron sequel. Okay, great, I guess. I think at the time I hadn't even seen the original yet, so I never even registered for me. So there's a lot of pressure on me right now because you're staring at me waiting for this answer, and
It's okay. I'm expecting the worst.
it's just okay.
Screw you.
It's just
I quit.
like I think it's funny, like, just how similar I feel towards this as I do to Oblivion, because I did feel a lot of similarities between the two movies, and
Yeah, when you said that before, I was like, he doesn't like it.
it's just got a very similar kind of like clean sci-fi visual style. It's got music by a popular kind of synthie artist. In this case, it's Daft Punk. In the case of Oblivion, it was M83. And the music is good, right? The music is by and large very good. Like, I'm not going to dispute that. But it's also a little hollow for me. Much like Oblivion, I kind of never really felt like I was that invested in the plot, because it was pretty simple MacGuffin stuff. It was pretty simple, sort of repeating the key beats of, like, getting out of the grid that the first movie already did. So I never really felt all that much for that side of things. And on the extreme end of the spectrum, there are parts of this movie that I think are actually really stupid, and I'll talk about them in a bit, probably in spoilers. And also the thing that you were probably expecting me to say, and it has to be said, is the CG young de-aging tech on Jeff Bridges is horrendous and takes me out of the movie every second it's on screen.
Maybe we should just record tomorrow. I need some time. Look, the de-aging had to start somewhere, okay?
No, it didn't. We could have just not done it. Ever.
I don't know. Like, it's definitely going to be beneficial for us in movies going forward, you know, because especially with the whole, like, aging and de-aging stuff previously, where it's just, like, slapping a bunch of makeup on and people look terrible. Like, you know, I think that also would take people out of the
Do you know
film.
what's so frustrating about it is that the opening scene, which is set in 1989, and it's Jeff Bridges talking to his son, right, and saying goodnight, basically. And it hides his face for a lot of the scene, and I thought, you know what, this works because we're only seeing just a little bit of the side of his face, right? It's fine so far because we're just hearing the voice, and and I thought it was going to do that the entire scene. I thought it was going to do this thing where we just never see his face. That would be the smart thing to do. Yes. Yeah. And not only does it eventually come around and show you his face, the moment that really made me go, oh, this is bad, is when his final line when he goes to shut the door, because it kind of like it's like a close up on his face, and he kind of smiles at his son, and I'm like, oh no. Like, I'm pretty sure the motion capture on like CG faces is better in video games now than it is in this movie, and that's maybe an unfair comparison to make, but like that's what I saw when I looked at it. I saw a video game cutscene, you know, whenever his face was on screen.
It was a mistake to do that. I think they were really proud of the technology, so they wanted to do that. And I remember going to see it, and like that scene happened, and everyone like gasped in the theater because they were all so impressed by it.
You sure it was being impressed? You sure it wasn't gasping horror?
No, I think like a lot of older people were just like, that looks like young Jeff Bridges. Wow,
like,
we're almost there.
Cover your children's eyes. It's horrific. It's scandalous.
Yeah, I mean, the Uncanny Valley thing is still very much there, and you can let it take yourself out of the movie or whatever in your experience, or you can just be like, well, I mean, it's pretty good for like when it came out, because there's really nothing like it before. I mean, maybe there was a little bit or in some other Marvel thing or whatever, I don't know, but like
the first time I saw this type of tech, I want to say it was the end scene from X-Men Origins Wolverine when Patrick Stewart showed up to rescue the kids, and he came out of the helicopter and he's walking and he smiles at them. They did some de-aging to make him look, I don't know, circa next gen Patrick Stewart.
I don't remember, but I believe you. Yeah, so this is like the first. I think it would have worked if it was in, because they do so many clever things to hide it. Like even the opening scene, like you said, there was, you know, his face was like backlit by a lamp, so it was mostly black, and you just see like some other actor playing young Jeff Bridges or whatever. And that could have worked just fine. and actually be really clever. Like you could have just done the tricks and used his voice and stuff,
Mhm.
and it would have worked. But and then when you go into, you know, the grid and you see young, they still keep using a version of young Jeff Bridges. Like sometimes they do flashback scenes and it's done through like a CRT TV or something. So there's dots covering it or the coloring's different. And, you know, there are all these clever ways to hide it. They'll be like, we're not quite there yet, but we need a young Jeff Bridges. So this is what we're doing. And, you know, even the fact that they're in this world, this cybernetic world, I think you can still get away with it looking a little computer graphicsy. But
Well, I would agree.
it's just that opening scene that kind of ruins it.
No, I disagree. I would agree with that point about getting away with it in the digital world to an extent if everyone else didn't just have regular human heads. This is actually one of the big differences between this and the original, is that when they go into the grid, there's no like filter on their faces. It's actually like, I was surprised when the main guy, the son, like Kevin's son, when he goes out of the grid and it's just his regular head still, I was surprised. I was like, oh, they've made a conscious decision to change that rather than that effect they had in everyone's faces inside the grid in the original movie. So because of that, I think the CG face on the alternate young Jeff Bridges did stick out constantly because everyone else just looks human. So I don't know. For me, it never worked. It was this stilted looking.
You mean
thing.
you never got over it? Is what you're trying to say?
Well, no, because it looked like shit the whole time.
I don't know. The movie's so good that I just get distracted by that rather than, you know. Like I understand when this came out and the special effects that they were able to do, and that for the time it was great. And you know, we give passes for other films that have that.
Well, certain things get passes if there's still like charm to it, or if there's like, I don't know if we do give passes to this extent. No, is there anything as bad as this that we've given a pass to? I don't think there is.
Maybe I do and you don't. We tend to do it more for like 60s and 70s and 50s movies that, you know, are trying to do stuff to make with puppets or with models and things like that. And nothing ever really looks real, but you're like, you know, it's of the time.
Yeah, but I will stand by what I'm about to say. That holds up better than this does. The models with the strings hold up better than this CG face.
Do you really hate this? Like, it's not that bad. It's just like, yeah, I get that the Uncanny Valley thing is there, but I don't know. Like, it's for the time it came out, it was good, and obviously the technology's gotten better since then. But it had to start somewhere.
If I saw this in 2010, I would not have thought it looked good. I'm sorry. You're not going to somehow spin that in me. No.
I'm not going to enjoy this.
Well, no, it's just this. It's the CG face. That's it. Like, I'm not trying to shit and everything.
Can we not bring it up for the rest of the review then?
We don't have to bring it up for the rest of the review.
Okay.
Right? I'm getting it out of the way now. It looks bad. And it probably looks like, I wouldn't say it gets worse as the movie goes on, but there's like some big moments where the character shows more emotion later on, where it also sticks out even more so when those moments happen. When he's yelling or he's screaming at someone, and that's when it's at its peak worse.
Well, it's always the mouth, right? The mouth is the giveaway.
The mouth is really bad. Yeah, the mouth's the worst part. Yeah, I can concur with that. Okay, we never have to bring up the CG face again.
Is there anything you like in the movie?
The music's good. I do think visually,
music's fantastic.
Visually, it's good with a caveat. And the caveat being is that I actually prefer how the original looks. The
really?
face, if you see for the audio listeners, the face I just got from Tara is priceless.
You don't think that the production design of this movie is very creative and very sleek and very cool, but like unique and exciting and
let me right. No, I agree. It's pretty good, right? But one of the things you just said there is that it's very sleek, and I think I like the grittiness of the original movie. I miss the effect on their faces. I like in the original film, the way those like lines of light showed up on the suit felt different because of the techniques they were using for it. Whereas here, it feels more like they're in just like an alien planet rather than like an actual computery thing, because it's just like, everything's very sleek and there's curves, but it's literally just streets. So, he walks out the building when he first goes to the grid, and it's like it's designed like streets. And I appreciate that they've still got the same ship design, the sort of the N shape or whatever you want to call it, that's sort of flying around. Maybe the pi symbol's a better descriptor.
It's like a staple.
Or a staple. Based an upside down U is basically what we're saying. Okay, so. And that's but that's the thing, when you look at that and you can sort of compare that to the original one, you can compare it side by side and sort of see how different it is. I appreciate that it's a much more like fancy looking, super slick version of what was in the original, but I do think that the people walking around look less interesting. In fact, there's a couple of scenes where either Sam or Kevin, Sam's the son, for the record, for everyone who's not following. Sam's the main character, who's the son of Kevin, the son of Jeff Bridges. There's a couple of moments where they're walking around with hoods up, and that like kind of made me laugh because they look like Jedi. And I got a good
this was
chuckle.
before Disney had Star Wars, and I mean, obviously this movie has sequel bait, so like it was clearly planned to be more films than this, but it didn't really catch on with the audience.
Well, they're planning a new one again, but I don't think it's following on from this. I think they're trying to set up from scratch again, effectively.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter
That's too bad.
Peter doesn't like a franchise. How do we get him into it? Oh, we'll add Jared Leto to it. Great idea, Disney.
I don't want to talk about it.
Wait, because you don't like it, or because you're annoyed at my negativity?
There's a lot happening. There's a lot that I'm feeling right now. I've wanted, for 13 years, I've wanted a sequel to Tron Legacy that's been denied to me, and now I'm not getting a sequel.
You're getting a reboot, which I could see it probably loosely connect. Like, I imagine they'll probably still tie it to those films, but it'll be like a new main character. It'll be a new idea taking it forward rather than following up on what this movie sets up.
Okay.
That's just my guess. I could be completely wrong. Maybe it is a sequel.
I don't hate Jared Leto as an actor, so I'm okay with him being involved. It's just not what I want.
Oh, there is one other thing I hated in this movie, actually. I don't know if you're ready for that, though.
No. I think it would be best if we talked about the positives.
What were positives?
I think the world is awesome to look at. Like, I think everything is like really leveled up, from the original film. Like the light cycle race is really exciting. The games that we get also they're so true to the rules of the original one, but everything's just like, I don't know, like cooler and more exciting, and it's got that sweet music in it. And I like the character of Sam. I think there's also like a lot of cool themes going on between like father and son dynamics, of course, and like the dad being attached to like two different versions of his son, basically. And also there's a lot of like biblical themes going on in it too, with God and like more Adam and Eve than Jesus, I would say. But like there's definitely a God and like a son and creation and stuff like that.
Well, that's something that definitely came up originally in the first film, because the whole idea of the creator and how they talked about users being kind of like their gods, like that was definitely something that was planted there originally. So, it's definitely here in this one. I feel like they sort of like bring it up without explaining it though, which isn't a complaint. That's fine. Well, if anything, it's better.
No, there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more subtext to it. Not everything is like bonk bonk on the head, and I think a lot of the stuff was meant to be explored in future films that didn't happen, obviously.
Yeah. So Sam's like, I think Garrett Hedlund, who plays Sam, I think he's fine. He's got enough decent charisma. I do think there's a couple of eye-rolling choices about how to kind of try and make us like him early on. I think there's a lot of his, I'll just say, adrenaline junkie shit at the start of the film kind of made me laugh because it was a bit over the top and silly.
It's shot really well though.
So I was kind of conflicted on some of that stuff. Obviously, I was happy to see Bruce Boxleitner because Babylon 5 is delightful.
Doesn't he look like Richard Gere in this? When he shows up, I'm like, he looks like Richard Gere.
I'm not seeing it, but I'm not going to argue with you. Actually, Cillian Murphy shows up for like 30 seconds.
Yes. Clearly, he was the character that's meant to be more of an antagonist in the future film. He's not even credited.
Really? He's not even credited? Because
he was a name at the time.
So here's the thing. We were meant to record this about a week and a half ago, and we had to delay the recording. We ended up doing the Transformers movie first, right? So I rewatched it again. And when I was rewatching it today, and it got to Cillian Murphy, I was like, yeah, Cillian Murphy was here. What the hell?
Yeah, they definitely got someone recognizable. He's playing the son of David Warner from the first film.
Oh, really? Okay. Like, I think, I mean, the world does look good. Like, I don't want me saying that I preferred the look of the grid in the original film. I don't want that to be taken as I don't like how this looks. I think there's a charm to what that original film had because they were using all these interesting techniques to pull that look off. And I think here there is almost it's that kind of thing when you go from the old school techniques to just like having like the seed, like they're there's in a green screen kind of room and they're shooting this all with these surroundings, and that's fine. That's how things are done now. But on some level, while I do like the design of the ships and stuff. And I appreciate that all the good guys have got blue lights and all the bad guys have got red lights to color code everything. Is very handy. I do think like something as simple as like the light cycles, right? I kind of missed having the solid lines behind them as opposed to this more transparent thing that they've got now because it's meant to be more like sleek and glossy. It's a taste thing more than anything else, but I kind of preferred that. I appreciate that they tried to like enhance what they could do with them though. Because this time there's like jumps, like they have ramps and stuff, and there's a lot of.
Do you prefer like the PlayStation 2 over the 5?
It's not the same. Come on, it's not the same thing at all.
Hey, PlayStation 2, a lot of great games.
I mean, there's a lot of things that have been lost though that haven't, that the game industry's decided we don't want it anymore. They've decided we don't want some simpler games from the past, and we do, and that's why certain things
Minecraft?
Come back. We're talking about Minecraft's like still making billions of dollars every year. What the hell are you talking about?
Exactly. It was simple graphics, something that looks like it could have been made, the early days.
But that's an always online. So that's got a lot of modern qualities to it. I'm talking about like a genre that's like went away because like the game makers decided that it wouldn't sell anymore. But then an indie developer does it, and all of a sudden, there's an appetite for I guess the big
Celeste or something. Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's been a long time now, but like about 10 or so years ago when like side scrollers started to make this big comeback from indies, it's like, hey, people do actually want to play games like these. This weird race to the 3D world has left all these things behind, but sure enough, there's an audience for it. I like how the world looks. I like the ships. I definitely think the people in their suits are a downgrade for my taste. It feels less otherworldly to me, in a sense, like it was more alien. Although ironically, I realized that I'm saying this feels more like an alien planet, but I liked that it felt less like another world and more like something truly different in the first film, which is what it was because it's the grid. It's this digital world that's formed out of computer programs. So
I like the look of the world. I think it looks. Normally I'm the opposite where I don't like things that look sleek, but I think it's shot so well, and it makes sense that this is an upgraded version from the Tron that we had before. That I don't know. I think the production design of this movie is especially really strong, and really good.
Okay. I mean, I can't deny that there's a lot of thought.
I do have some. I still have questions about how this world works. I mean, we see like a dead pig at one point inside the grid, and I'm like, why is that there?
Well, I'm not so much concerned that they can create and just have like a dead animal inside the world because it's digital. They can just make whatever they want. My question is what are the characters actually eating in here, and do they even need to eat because they're in a digital world?
Well, they drink the energy, like all the stuff the wine they drink is all the glowy blue stuff from the first movie.
And then there's a question from the first movie that's still not answered in this one, which is, their bodies disappear when they go in here, and then they rematerialize when they come back out. Where are their bodies hanging out when all this is happening? Like, they've never even attempted to answer that, I don't think.
Bodies turned into digital code, man.
Piss off. I'm not. Also, at one point in this movie, Jeff Bridges utters the line, what was it? Bio electrical jazz. No, bio digital jazz, man. That's what he says. And I'm like, why is your character from Tron merged with the dude from The Big Lebowski? There's just a few times where a little bit of that Lebowski was coming through.
Look, the man has been here for a long time. Because as they explain in the movie, time works differently. Much like in a dream, it's much longer in the grid. So, I mean, the man has to find his zen. I'm sure that was very popular in the 80s, He was a cool guy in the 80s. Rode a Ducati.
Uh-huh. I'll tell you what.
Laid back against the corporation.
Yeah, we have Olivia Wilde in here as kind of her... it's probably too much of a spoiler to explain who she is, but she's in the digital world. She's in the grid. She's kind of our female lead, effectively. But
more important than the last one.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. That's fair to say. She's more important.
She has more of a role.
Yeah. So the other thing that I said that I hated, that I thought of while we were talking, is a character. There's a character in here that I absolutely despise.
No, it's not Michael Sheen.
It is. I hated Michael Sheen. Every second he was on screen, he was literally doing like jazz dancing at one point, and he was.
Oh, he was Bowie, man. He was David Bowie.
Oh, it was so awful. Why is he so charismatic? Or well, that sounds like something you say.
Why is that a complaint?
No, I said the wrong word.
Why is he so awesome?
Why is this computer program so smiley and yelling and dancing and singing? It was terrible.
Because his user programmed to be that way.
Oh, I hated him. I hate that section of the movie for me was like where my interest went to die. Like I was just out of it at that point.
The best song in the movie comes in at that point. And I love Michael Sheen. I love him in this role. I love him in this universe. And it's perfect. Plus, it's one of the coolest scenes in the movie.
Is it?
Yep. I've seen it more than you, so I'm the expert.
I'm not so sure I'm going to agree with that assessment, but fine.
Stop being so stuffy, all right?
Look, it's just an okay. It's okay.
Can't you just have fun sometimes?
It's just okay, all right?
What do you want, another Transformer and Marvel movie, You can't get into the original stuff, the cyberpunk?
This is literally a sequel. Shut up.
One of the most original sequels to one of the most original films. Sequel. So is Mad Max Fury Road, okay?
Mad Max Fury Road is so much better than this, come on.
I do like Mad Max Fury Road.
Right.
Slightly more. But I love this film.
I think one of the things that you just said there kind of hits on, why I'm just kind of lukewarm. And this is that it is kind of, the blockbustery side of it does feel a little bit, typical. The plot's not that, the plot's pretty just simple, okay? The plot's not doing anything that interesting.
Same with Mad Max Fury Road. It's about the world, man. It's about the ideas. It's about...
Yeah, but they did that already in Tron.
There's a whole new Tron, all right? Whole new image.
Yeah. Mad Max Fury Road, though, is a great action movie, though, right? Like, it's this chase, and they're doing all these stunts and shit. It's
yeah, that doesn't happen in here.
But it's not real stunts, though. It's all digital. It's all CG.
Not all of it.
Most of it.
Yeah, some of it.
I love that Tara's trying to argue that the movie that's literally set in the computer world is it got a lot
Not
of CG.
all of it. Also, I want to mention, because I did see it in theaters, I saw it in 3D. This was like the height of like 3D mania. And I thought this was particularly cool for 3D because everything outside of the grid is just 2D, but when we go into the grid, everything becomes 3D. So, and then you go straight into like the games and then the light cycle and stuff like that. So like it's really cool. It was a really neat use of the 3D. And it would like go back and forth sometimes. There's like a scene it's showing a flashback and you just see like all these TVs on like some sort of grid, I guess. I don't know what it is. And all the TVs and stuff are in 3D, but the stuff that they're showing is on 2D. I remember that specifically because that was so cool.
Yeah, this was the year after Avatar, so yeah, this was when the movies were trying to make it work.
They did clever work with it. It was definitely a movie that I thought was a cool reason to have a 3D experience.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of something positive to say to not upset you.
Actually, I really like the way the world looks outside. It really reminds me of like David Fincher. It's got that like that olive tone to everything, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of like a vomit color filter over things. And like the cinematography is really good.
Of all the things I was not expecting to hear coming out of this review, it was a comparison to the visual style of David Fincher.
Well, like when he's on the bike and stuff and he's getting chased by the cops, and then he's like going through the tunnel, it's got that Fincher look to it until he gets to his home, his little apartment on the pier or whatever it is. And I don't know, like I think it's all it's shot really well. Like it's shot really beautifully.
I'm glad you like this.
I do.
I'm glad you like it.
I don't think I'm the only one too. I think it's a good movie.
I think there are dozens of you, and I'm glad that you're passionate about it. I don't think it's bad. Like I think it's fine. I think that the thing I'm not allowed to talk about anymore for the rest of the review is the big thing that I would say is actively bad. But other than that, I think everything's fine. Occasionally there's some things that are nice. I do think the music's quite good, but it very much feels like a franchise starter. Like they really wanted this to be the start of a series of movies, and
I would have given them all my money.
And I think there's a little bit of it's not as hollow as say like Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is like, hey, Sinister 6 is coming. Here's like all your teases for 10 sequels. Like it's not anywhere as bad as that. But there is a little bit of this is meant to be the launching pad to all the DLC that's coming later. There's a little bit of that feel to it.
Yeah. Okay.
To compare it to video games.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and other than the fact that we didn't get those other films. So maybe it feels a little incomplete for that reason.
I miss David Warner.
Yeah, rest in peace.
I miss David Warner. Yeah, and I don't even love the first Tron. I'm critical of the script of the first Tron. I think it loses a lot of steam, and the back half of the story is quite dull. But visually, I think Tron is very special.
I agree.
And I think this, it doesn't look super generic by any means. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it just goes into a slew of CGI blockbusters. But it definitely feels like a movie that was made in that era of CGI blockbusters, which we're not out of, for the record. We're still in that era, but
Sure, but it still doesn't look like anything else to me.
Yeah, it's actually, funny enough, it's there's a couple of moments where they're flying around on stuff, and the music's playing that really made me think of Oblivion, because I got flashes of Tom Cruise on the motorbike going across the desert as like the score was playing in that movie, and it felt very similar to me. I'm like, yeah, I can tell this is the same guy. This is definitely the same director. He's going for the exact same kind of feel with some of these scenes.
Did you watch Maverick?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you did. Yep. He likes his action, I guess.
Do you want a quick opinion on Maverick since you brought it up?
Nope. I don't think I do.
It's probably the best of the 3 movies I've seen from him.
That might be true.
I do think it's overrated, though. Once again, I don't think the story's all that much to write home about. But it's fun because of all the real jet stuff and like how that's shot.
Okay. Well, I think this movie is very special, and I think it has it also deserves a cult following. And maybe something will happen now that it's so available on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I want to say there's like other cartoon movies around Tron as well, maybe even a series. I don't know.
Maybe this is the curse this franchise has to bear, is that every movie's a failure, but gets a cult following over 15, 20 years. So it eventually gets another attempt.
They also just opened up in Walt Disney World. They like just opened up a roller coaster based on the light cycles, like, and it looks like this version of Tron, obviously. So, and I thought that was an odd choice. Like, clearly, it's a great choice for a roller coaster because it's a ride and it makes sense. You know,
visually, it's quite distinct as well.
But like, they don't tend to do that unless there's plans for more. You know, like, to promote an older film wouldn't really make much sense.
Well, we did say they're developing a new one, so clearly they're hoping that takes off. And maybe they're even hoping that having this ride will help it a little bit by like, hey...
Yeah, I think maybe it will garner some interest for people who are just like, well, what is Tron? Let me look into it.
Yeah, maybe they'll try and sort of retroactively say, oh, it's based on the ride. You know, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like, there's no previous movies. Yeah, it's just based on the ride. And Jungle Cruise, man, they've actually made like 3 or 4 movies based on their rides at this point.
Tomorrowland.
Oh yeah,
they made the whole land is a movie.
Yeah, that's
looking forward to Space Mountain.
I've not seen Jungle Cruise and I've not seen Haunted Mansion, but I am willing to bet that Tomorrowland is the best movie that's been made out of one of their rides.
Well, yeah, Haunted Mansion. There is a movie with Eddie Murphy, but also there's a new one coming out like in a couple of months.
Yeah, I think I've heard that, yeah.
With Lakeith Stanfield.
Okay.
I think that's his name. The guy from Get Out.
Yeah, no, I know who it is.
And what else is there? Pirates. I mean, the first Pirates is pretty great. But I would put Tomorrowland over that too.
I think Tomorrowland's actively underrated. People like.
I agree.
100%. I really like Tomorrowland, and it's sci-fi, so we'll do it at some point.
I'm surprised we haven't done it already.
Hey, you know what? We'll get to it by episode 300. How about that?
Deal.
This is episode like 198 for the record.
I can't wait to do
or maybe
RoboCop.
I didn't win. No.
All right, I want to see the numbers.
I'm dying over here.
Yeah. Try to distract me. I want to see the receipts.
District 9 was victorious. That's episode 200, which that actually might be next week now I'm thinking about it. I might be... I kind of forgot that was slotting in somewhere, to be honest. I think that's slotting in... is that next week? It is, yeah. Episode 200 is next week. This is episode 199.
Yeah. Because we swapped.
Yeah, it's because we swapped this, and yeah, so it's confused me. Yeah. So I guess sequel season starts. Well, this is the start of it, but it's taking a week off for episode 200, and then you can expect Cube 2, Honey I Blew Up the Kid, Future World, an Invisible Man movie. Although I guess that's not a second movie, but whatever. It's about time we did another one, and Empire Strikes Back. There you go. That's your slate for the next like month.
Wow. Hot scoops.
I know. I'm being nice. So anyway. Spoilers! I think it's time we get into spoilers for Tron Legacy and go from there. There's not too much to say about the opening scene, I would say, because we've already talked about... I mean, the main thing to talk about is this, because this is the first time you see the face, but otherwise it's him talking to his son about the grid, and it'll take him there someday, and it sounds like this is the night that he left and never came back.
Yes.
So...
On the same team.
Yeah, there is... So, when it's showing you... Because it cuts to the TVs next, and it's explaining that he's went missing, but it shows you, like, a clip of Flynn on a stage talking about how the future's digital, and he's talking about how it's going to change the world. And I thought this was a weird little clip, although I think it may actually be intentional because of something that happens later with Clue.
It's almost the word for word, the same speech.
But it did stick out to me. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. He sounds like Mussolini or something on this stage talking about technology. It's weird. Like it felt out of character based on the Flynn that we knew in the first movie. I guess.
Is very like Hitler at the Olympic Games or something.
But but later on, Clue, who's the the younger AI evil version of him in the grid, he does a speech like this to his troops, and I'm like, okay, I think they're going for like a parallel here, and
there's actually a ton of parallels when you watch the opening scene, because not only is it setting up like, okay, the world of the grid in case you haven't seen the movie, the first film, or in case it's been a long time. So we set up that, Flynn and his son, and that his dad disappears on a Ducati. And so then we meet actual Sam, and Sam's like a daredevil in a way. And so he's a little Batman-esque or Bruce Wayne-esque, where he we see the state of the company, we see that he's like a thrill seeker, and that he has like a light cycle chase in real life, like against a cop on a motorcycle. And then he even has like a spotlight that comes down on him, much like the end of the film.
Do you know what was weird about that? Like both the motorbike bit where he goes away from the cop by jumping up the ramp onto the other road, and also the skydiving off the top of the building, is that I suppose in a way I should say I should see that as, they're setting up why he's already able to do these kinds of things.
Why he's great,
and that's why he can already do it.
Yeah.
The problem is though, is that this is not consistent with the first movie, because the first film didn't do this with its characters, where hey, Flynn can already do all these fancy things. He's good at playing video games though. That's how the first movie set it up. The first movie set it up that he's good at playing the video games of it, and that translated to him being good in the world. So I was laughing a little bit at some of this stuff early on in the film, because it felt so absurd to me that we're starting the Tron sequel with in the real world, and the characters skydiving off the building for a thrill and parachuting.
Yeah, Daredevil.
And he's landing on a taxi cab, which for some reason the cab driver isn't like concerned that someone fell out of the sky and landed on his roof. He's concerned that the guy's getting a free ride, and he's like, no free rides. Like, what? Anyway, I've got a few comments to make about the scene.
Silly. It could be a little silly.
I've got a few comments to make about the scenes inside the building, inside the Flynn.
In the darkest meeting of all time.
Well, that's my problem with it. It's like, so they're having this meeting, and Bruce Boxleitner, Al Bradley from the first movie, he's on the board, but he's surrounded by all these other people who are more evil than him, and the guy's basically saying, we're about to launch, what's the name of the company again? Encom? Something like that?
I think so. That sounds right.
Okay. He's like, we're doing Encom OS 12. And we're going to launch it. And Bruce Boxleitner says, hey, given that we charge, schools and students and people a lot of money for this, what have we done to actually improve it since 11? And the guy says, we put a 12 on the box, and I'm like, this is Bob Evil from Mystery Science Theater. That's what this is. This is comically just villainous.
Yeah. Well, it's after also he says that we've our company is what it is today because the son of the family of David Warner, right? And then he points to Cillian Murphy.
Which so I've got a second problem with this scene, is that they talk about Flynn like he's only been gone for like a year or something like that, because he's like, the idea of giving out our stuff free went away with Flynn. And I'm like, that's a really weird thing to like say, given that it's been 20 years since he disappeared. Like, things changed a long time ago. Why are you still referencing it? I don't know, that just felt a bit weird.
Because Alan's part of the old team, and this young hotshot is like, look, we gotta make money. So it doesn't matter that this stuff can help a lot of people, and obviously schools and students,
I get
whatever.
That.
But
I get that. I'm just saying it feels unnatural the way they say it. The way they bring it up here does not feel like it's been something that's like 20 years ago. It feels like something that it feels like he went away a year ago, and all the policies to change things have all just happened recently, and that's why it's still a thing that's being brought up.
I mean, that could be true still. Like, the company could have been run the same way for a little while, but like slowly things have been changing over time. We don't really know. So it could have only been in the last couple of years that, Cillian Murphy's character has really taken charge of things. He's kind of a younger guy. So I
mean, that is potentially true. They don't really give us any insight towards that, but
all we know is that Sam is very apathetic when it comes to being in control of this company, and only gets involved when he wants to shake things up.
Yeah, well, his whole thing here is that he breaks in and steals the new operating system and leaks it onto the internet for free, pissing all the executives off, except of course Bruce Boxleitner, who just thinks it's kind of fun.
Yes, Alan.
Yes. So Alan goes to see him after he's arrested for the skydiving incident. He gets out of jail, and he goes home, and Alan goes to see him and says, "Hey, I got a page from your dad, from the old arcade. That's a bit weird." So it sets up that he's reluctant. He doesn't want to take over the company. He's kind of like not wanting to take what his father left him because he's got daddy issues basically because his father abandoned him.
Because of the legacy.
Are you trying to explain to the audience that it's called Tron Legacy because it's about the legacy of something going from a father to a son? Is that what you're trying to get across?
There's a lot of themes going on. Legacy is obviously a big one.
I just thought that particular one went without explanation. If I'm honest.
I just wanted to say it.
Okay, so he goes to the arcade and he finds a secret entrance to where his dad did most of his real work, which was the new grid that he built. And sure enough, the Honey I Shrunk the Kids beam is sitting in the background and is ready to strike and beams him into the grid. So, he ends up with the grid.
It is very Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes. And very quickly gets picked up as, he's a rogue program, he's not got a disc, and they arrest him and they take him to the games, and then 4 sexy ladies all come out in sync and take off his clothes, to which you can't believe he's lucky at this point, but then they dress him in the Tron outfit.
And give him a disc. And before one of them goes to the other one and says, he's different.
Yes. So we get some disc throwing where he's reluctant to play it first, but it does some dodging. He ends up knocking out a panel of the floor like Fall Guys, and the other player goes falling to his death. Yeah,
that was in the first movie too. It's the same rules.
Yeah, but wasn't the first movie rings that were disappearing on the floor?
Isn't it the same?
No, this was like a hexagon that he smashes away.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, this was a little bit different. And this was more tournament style, I guess. But anyway, we get a tease of the villain, right? Because we get him in. It's basically like a Daft Punk. It's no. I mean the villain watching.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about Clue. Before we know who it is. And he's got a Daft Punk style helmet on, right? So they're sort of doing the cross promotion there a bit, I guess.
Yeah, Daft Punk is from this world.
Yeah. What did you say this other one's the main fighter's name is?
Rinsler?
Yeah. It turns out to be Tron.
He uses 2 rings.
Yeah. It turns out to be Tron later, but we shouldn't probably call him Tron the whole time though, because that's confusing. So
sure.
Yeah. Ringler.
Rinsler.
Okay. Rinsler.
I'm sure there's an explanation for the name if we ever got that sequel.
Aye, so basically he survives well enough, and Rinsler doesn't kill him because he bleeds, right? Because we see when the others get hit, they just sort of pixelate and go blah, 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 right? Whereas he actually bleeds, right? Which again, I'm we're in a digital world though. Why does he have blood in here? It's not really.
And he calls him a loser.
Calls him a user. But this makes him takes him up to see who turns out to be Clue, who is our young CG Jeff Bridges. And I think at this point we'll just explain what the backstory to all this is, just so because I feel like it's weird to dance around it. So basically, in the past, Kevin Flynn was building a second version of the grid based on the first version, and he brought Tron, the program, across and put him in the new one to help run it. And because he had all these real life responsibilities, he made a program version of himself called Clue to help run it as well. But Clue went, it's that classic AI thing where he said make the perfect system, and the AI basically said, well, it's perfect if I run it like a dictatorship then. That's what will make it perfect. And sure enough, did a sort of uprising and took over the grid, and that's what's going on now. And Kevin Flynn got trapped inside and hiding all this time, so that's why he's been missing, right? He's in the grid, which is something that Al seemingly always expected this, because he was convinced his dad wasn't dead, and he probably obviously knows enough that he might just be in the grid. So it's kind of interesting that he never tried to, I don't know, find where the grid controls were and see if he could do anything about it. No?
Well, Alan never went into Tron in the first film, or into the grid in the first movie.
But he knew about it though, surely.
I think he knew about it. He seemed to know. He seemed to understand what was happening, but I don't know that he ever went into the grid. And even in this movie, they don't really say that. We see Alan, a younger version of him there, but it's Tron. So it's never actually Alan.
Yeah, because at one point when he's explaining the backstory, we see like two young Jeff Bridges. One's the real one, one's the clue, and then young Bruce Boxleitner is also there. So we got all that going on. But the other big part of the backstory is that while this was all happening, a miracle happened. A miracle happened in the digital world, which is where the creator and God stuff, like, it's already kind of there, of course, because he created all the programs and they already kind of look at him as the creator. But there's this miracle that happens where a life form, effectively, that wasn't supposed to exist just kind of came to exist. And he calls them the ISOs. And that's one of the things that Clue does. And this is actually very, like, Nazi Germany parallel, where he kills all the ISOs because he sees them as a threat or whatever.
This is where I think, like, a lot of the, like, biblical stuff comes in. Like, the... especially like Paradise Lost, which is sort of biblical. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's like so like God exists and he's the creator of all things, and there are angels, right? And then one of the angels, Lucifer, wants to get really close to him. Like, he loves God, so he tries to get super close, but then God's like, hey, bro, like, you're getting too close now, and I feel like if you get to like as close to me too, you might become equal to me, in which case we can't have that. So I'm going to banish you from heaven, and Lucifer becomes Lord of the underworld, basically. So, but then God's like, I'm going to make another thing in my own image, right? And it's going to be perfection. And Lucifer comes in because he's jealous of Adam, basically, and like his closeness to God. And that he's this other creation that God loves more because he made it in his image. So like he messes with them and causes them to not be able to live in paradise anymore, which was the Garden of Eden. So, I mean, that's where I think a lot of the parallels are between like Flynn and his son, and then Flynn and his copy of himself and what he thought was going to be the perfect world. But, things went wrong because he didn't understand. And then this other version of Clue, right? The ISOs are kind of like a natural AI that just appear because the world was right for it.
Yeah, like, and his whole thing this movie is he wants to get out into the real world. That's why he wanted to lure someone into, because if he gets the ring, this is the MacGuffin part of it, if he gets the ring that belongs to Flynn, that's effectively a key to get out of the out to the real world. So he's effectively trying to leave the Garden of Eden and go to the rest of the world, the whole movie. The part that makes that all that confusing is that the whole like makes him in his own image thing. Technically, Clue in this case is the one that's made in his image, as opposed to whereas in this version of the story, the ISOs are the natural ones that are more like the Adam and Eve, even though I think what's interesting. I think there's a lot of influence there, but there are some changes, obviously. But I think a lot of characters can kind of cross and represent more than one thing. When you talk about the parallels between the father-son stuff, is like you've got the natural son, who's Sam in the real world, and then Clue is kind of this digital son, and the digital son, who was supposed to be perfect because he's a program, ended up corrupting and being awful, and enough,
he's neglecting his own son, not by choice. Well, maybe a little bit in the beginning because he's work obsessed.
And yeah, when you go back to the parallels of the father-son stuff between the like Sam and Flynn, but then also Clue and Flynn, is they both have daddy issues for him, and one's the real son in the real world, who he kind of like took for granted, and then like lost all this time. And part of Flynn is obviously that he regrets. You know, he says later on, I'd have given all this up to spend one more day with you if I'd known it was going to like take me away from you. And then Clue is this son that he doesn't want anymore because he corrupted, and part of the end of the film even is like him accepting that you are part of me. It's my fault that you corrupted. I basically, like, I tried to create something that was perfect, and that was a fool's errand. That was never going to really work.
Yeah, so, he was young and he had these ambitions that were unreachable.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, so does Clue because he's an exact copy of his digital self.
Yeah, Clue is effectively like God's mistake, if you in the context of the grid. You know,
sin in the flood.
But just kind of what happens at the end. He basically, you know, initiates the apocalypse in the grid by merging with Clue, which is very Time Cop actually. If the two merge, if they touch.
That's right. No wonder this movie's so good.
Time Cop's better, damn it. So, anyway, so there's all this backstory, and then the other thing, obviously, here we're talking about the Izos. He kills all the Izos in this uprising we hear about. We don't see any of this, but it turns out, of course, that Olivia Wilde's character Cora is the only one who survived. Basically, Flynn saved one. He could save one, and he saved her, and she's kind of special because of this. What's really interesting about this is that she's really curious. She has this natural kind of like thirst for knowledge. And they do a little comedy bits with her and Sam, and she asks like questions about the real world, like, "Hey, do you know Tolstoy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know Tolstoy." He's like, "Oh, what's he like?" You know, like little comedy bits like that. So they do this thing at the end of the movie where they set up in the middle. Flynn says that Clue can get into the real world because Sam's like, "How can he even do that? How could he possibly exist in the real world?" And Flynn makes it sound, and I'm kind of reading between the lines a little bit here. He says that with my ring he can do it, and the implication I got from that was that a digital program can't just go into the real world and have a body, but technically, because the matter of Kevin's body exists and is like come into the grid like already, effectively, if Clue goes out into the real world, he's effectively taking that matter. He's taking Kevin Flynn's body in the real world. So what I think's funny about the ending is that Cora gets out into the real world, which technically means that her body is made out of the matter that was once Sam's dad, and he's totally going to have sex with her. So I'm just raising the question that he's kind of having sex with his dad's body. I'm throwing that out there. Because if it's not like the matter from his dad's body, then where the hell did her body come from? Like, is there a 3D printer just printing humans?
Well, I mean, like we drink water that was once dinosaur piss. It's not the same thing anymore. You know, it's been changed and altered, and you take the matter. It's, you know.
I think it might have been a few things in between dinosaur piss and our drinking water. It's weird you went that far back.
I was gonna do like it's like the matter of the poop being turned into food again on Star Trek or something, but like that's also another magical thing. So I went with real life example.
So anyway, obviously we danced around a little bit there. I talked a little bit about some things at the ending because they came to my mind whilst talking about all this ISO stuff and Cora and all that. And maybe it's my way of trying to gloss over the parts with
Michael Sheen.
I always say Martin Sheen. Like I was about to say Martin Sheen, and he's not Martin Sheen.
I don't think they're related. Also,
no,
even though there's a lot of Sheens out there.
No.
In Hollywood that are related.
No. Well, I mean, they're from different countries as well, right? Like,
yes.
Michael Sheen is the only British Sheen that I'm aware of, but I don't think Martin Sheen is related to the other Sheens that are all related.
Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie and his dad. And
the Estevez?
And the Estevez side. Yeah, that whole... And the Coppolas. They're all one big family. Bit of trivia for you.
Anyway, Hollywood.
I know. I thought so, yeah, basically... When Clue like has Sam in his grips here after the whole disc fighting bit, He wants to race him in, or let's say race, battle him in light cycle racing. And of course, our character Sam is good at motorbike racing, so he's like, oh wait, I can do this. And he starts, pulling off some fancy tricks and winning and whatnot. It's it's an entertaining sequence that ultimately ends with Quora coming in like a light car, a lightmobile.
Batmobile?
Well, it's funny you say Batmobile, because see when they're going towards like Flynn's like hideaway and it's going through the tunnel with all the doors opening in front of them, that's very that's like a it's Batman 89 when they're going into the Batcave and going through the tunnel leading to the Batcave and all these doors are going up. It reminded me a lot of that scene.
Well, that's around the time that Flynn disappeared, right? 89-ish. So
Wait,
maybe he saw Batman and was like, I like this. This is how I'm going to program my home.
You're saying, do you know what? That's not the craziest suggestion you've given me today. You've said some questionable things. You've said some dumb things. Some really dumb things.
Hey.
Astronomically dumb. But,
okay, that's enough.
But that's all right. I like that theory. I was doing a bit. Come on, I was doing a bit.
I'm not okay with
it. I was doing a bit. You've said nothing dumb.
Thank you.
You've said mostly nothing dumb.
All right, that's enough.
There's always room for a little dumb. A little dumb. Always room for a little dumb. What would you like to talk about next time?
Whatever happens next in the plot.
The awkward family dinner.
Oh yeah, with the dead pig.
Which is not a real dead pig though, because it's digital. So even vegan, you can be okay with this.
But they are eating something. Like Cora cuts up a carrot and puts it in her mouth.
It's digital matter.
It'd be one thing, like if it was a digital projection, but they were just drinking the blue liquid. Like this is just something that brings him comfort, is to have like a setup for his dining table, but he still just drinks the whole time.
Hey, what was once digital dinosaur piss is now digital drinking water.
Yep. Well, I think it's like electricity or something, right?
It makes sense for the programs. I don't know how it works for the users that are in there. I guess that's what they would need to. Just energy, I guess.
They might still be a digital copy of themselves, right, in there, but that's like how their conscience just represented itself in that world. Which
does beg the question, if their body and matter is being stored somewhere, how is it staying alive? Look through all this. Is this like Star Trek where you could just put someone in the transporter, like beam, just leave them in there?
You mean the murder machines on Star Trek?
This movie's caca. I'm saying it.
That's why portals is the only safe way for instant transport.
Yeah, definitely not a transporter pod. So you seen The Fly? Come on, bad things happen.
No digital, nothing.
All right, so basically, Daddy Flynn doesn't want to like get involved. He's like, the safest thing's to do nothing, so that Clue can't get to the real world. But obviously Sam's like, no, I want to go home. I want to run to the portal before it shuts. So I'm going to go to the city with my weird, lame Jedi hood and try and find...
I think that robe is excellent, okay? I want one so bad. The only one that it rivals with is the one that... the trench coat that Samuel Jackson wears in The Hateful Eight. And that also has a strip of bold color going down, much like the lights in this robe. I just want to say it's awesome.
I've got another word for it.
Brilliant? Like,
no. It's a 4-letter word.
Why do you not like this? I don't understand. Like, he's going incognito.
I don't know. I just think like, why do they have hoods in here? I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing just felt a bit weird to me. That's all.
Personality? I don't know.
I felt a bit off. Anyway, but he goes to the Sheen bar where he's dancing around.
Zeus's bar.
He's doing like the jazz kicks at one
Libations
point.
for everyone.
Oh, I hate that line.
And who is DJing? Why, it's Daft Punk themselves, who fit into this world so well.
They are daft. They're a pair of daft bastards.
Okay, we need to get rude.
Just.
Wait, do you not like Daft Punk? Is that what I'm hearing right now?
I have no ill will towards Daft Punk. I'm just trying to inject some fun into the conversation.
I'm not having fun at all.
And I feel like, well, to be fair, daft's a really common word in Scotland to mean stupid.
Maybe that's the point.
Stupid punk? That's what the name means?
Yeah, you know, they're French.
Oh, dear. I'm just trying to be silly. Like, give me peace. Are you not having fun?
No.
Well, because I don't like the movie that much?
No, because you're putting on a character. You're trying to inject fun and it's making me miserable.
You love this character, though, where it's something you don't love. You know you do.
What else we got?
There's a whole chase. The whole Shane character is just like a plot device because he's immediately killed by the villain anyway right after. So he never becomes anything or goes anywhere.
Well, he's a fun character, and we get to meet one of the sexy ladies comes back. She has a name. It just opens up more world building, you know, like for the sequels that were supposed to come out. You can be like, yeah, okay, I can see this was also kind of in the first film when they walk by the area where there's like prostitute looking programs and like, oh, okay, this is the seedy part of the internet. It was kind of like that, you know. There are programs in there that have these connections that are part of the dark web. Maybe, who knows?
I didn't like the character. Okay, it all boils down to that. He's too flamboyant. I don't like it.
He's fun. He's fun. He's played by a wonderful actor, and I enjoy it very much.
Olivia, Cora gets her arm cut off here, but luckily her magic ISO digital DNA, after a little bit of a pick-me-up, is able to regrow the arm and gets fine. That's the funny thing, is we end up doing the exact same thing as the first movie, where we're on like one of those long ships like flying towards the portal.
It looks like a broadsword.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And then like the ship sort of comes up to them, and we end up getting, it's almost a little bit like sneaking around the Death Star for like 5 minutes, where they're going around this ship and they're trying to get Jeff Bridges' disc back, because we didn't mention that, but during the whole scene at the club where the big fight happens,
Rinsler actually is able to get the disc back.
And you know, but Sam's like really like gun-ho about saving Quora, even though Quora's like, no, leave me, go, you know.
And saving his father.
And there's a really ominous bit when they're on the ship before the action starts, where they're bonding a little bit, they're talking about stuff, and he brings up his bike and he's like, oh, I'd like to see that, and Sam's like, you will, and I'm like, Jeff Bridges has decided that he's not making it out of here. He's sacrificing himself. Like, the movie's like painting it quite clear at this point.
Yeah.
Which is not a critique necessarily. I'm just, you know, it does not hide its intention with that part of the movie.
You know what thing I noticed this time watching also is that when you see when Clue first traps Flynn in the system, excuse me, and Tron is there and he's defending him. He's like, I'm going to fight him for you so you can escape. He actually gets a second disc to be able to, so he's fighting with two of them in that scene. So that's like the first clue, if you will, that Rinsler is actually Tron.
Yeah, the whole Tron thing, it basically just pays off when like they get the disc back and they escape on a ship, and we basically have light ships in this where it's just like the light cycles where they have like a bar and the ship forms around them, like these fighter pilot style things, and we get a big chase sequence over the sea. What was it called? Sea of
Tranquility? I don't know.
No, it wasn't Tranquility. Oh, there was like a tech word. Oh, Sea of... You've seen this numerous times.
Energy?
No, it began with an S. It was alliteration.
Sea of synergy. I don't know.
So that's annoying me. Okay. I felt like it was so easy to remember when I heard it earlier. Anyway, they have this big scene where they're doing all these jet fighter pilot style things, dodging each other, whatnot. And Tron realizes he's Tron because he's been kind of brainwashed, and that's why he's working for Clue. And he remembers, and he has these one line where he's like, "I fight for the user," and crashes into Clue's ship. Clue still survives, and we have the big standoff after still, but this is Tron's big moment.
Yeah, and he falls into the sea of reset to default. where he like the lights go out when they're yellow and then they come back on, they're white. We're like, Tron's back.
Do you know what's weird is they never have him unmask by the end, and I thought that was a bit strange because I get why the argument could be, well, they're saving money by not having to DH him too, but I'm like, they're doing it so much anyway. Would one scene of him with his mask off really make that much of a difference? I don't think so.
I don't know. Like, all the stuff we get of young Alan Bradley, like, is very, like, they're doing a good job hiding him in that. So even when we see it, like, it's through like what looks like a CRT or whatever, you know. So it's different than they're so overt with the Jeff Bridges one, but for him, yeah, it's always kind of hidden in the background.
Yeah, and
there's an argument to be made that maybe this was something that was added in later. Like maybe Rinsler was always going to be someone else or a different character.
Oh,
and then
no, that's a good point.
We should probably have Tron in our Tron movie.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like, because basically all they had to do was add the moment where Jeff Bridges says, "Wait, that's Tron," and then just dub in the line of saying, "Well, no," because if it was someone else, would he like change to being a good guy at this last second? And I suppose that's basically all a CG scene anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter. They could just change that.
Yeah, maybe. It is mostly CG. It would be probably easy to do. You would just have to get Bruce Boxleitner to do some lines and have the scene where Alan or Tron in the beginning picks up a second disc so that it's the setup.
Yeah.
Which was also CG.
Yeah, so maybe it was something they added later. It doesn't have to be, but I could see it being that, maybe.
I also was wondering that maybe because he falls into this, whatever this sea is, and he has to keep his helmet on for survival. So does it make more sense that he's alive for the sequel that we never got?
Yeah, so anyway, okay, I got distracted there for a second. So there's a whole standoff, and they sort of trick. Clue thinks he gets Flynn's disc, but it's actually Quor's disc, and Sam and Quora have Flynn's disc, and they're able to leave. And this is one of the moments I thought was really silly, just from like a visuals perspective, is when it goes into
the poster. Yeah.
No. It's Flynn when he goes into slow motion, when he sort of goes all Jesus-y and like starts sucking in Clue, and there's like a slow motion shot of him standing there, and like the wind's hitting them, and I just thought that looked really goofy. And also,
I thought it looked awesome.
Also, Clue's face as he's getting pulled back because it's like right up at the camera, and he gets sort of, I don't know, like the whole thing was just a bit silly for me.
Well, he's the god in this universe, so like I think it's okay for him to have some sort of supernatural almost power over his creation, which would be Clue, and like, you know, maybe physics change around him because he's doing some manipulation of them, you know.
Well, they set it up kind of earlier because he uses a power similar in the club at the start of that action scene, but I don't think they really establish. Like, I don't really like it when it's really wishy-washy as to like, how does this work? What are the rules? What can and can't he do? You know, like I don't like that uncertainty. I just feel like it makes it feel like, oh, why doesn't he just whip out this power any other time? You know, it feels a bit selective in the script when he can do stuff, but like this.
Well, I mean, the only other thing he really does, like in that scene, the Michael Sheen one, this in Zeus's club or whatever, he shows up and he sort of just turns off the electricity in the club, so everyone is sort of feels threatened by that, and we see someone when he walks by like they start like prayer hands and stuff, like, oh, you're a user, like, but so it's not really much of a power. Like the only other power we get is that he's able to merge with Clue, which was already established. So I don't know that they're really breaking any rules.
Okay. I'll take your word on that. I think you can have the parallels to him being the god of this world without doing like an on the nose visual of it. You know, like I don't necessarily think you need this, especially when I just think it looks goofy, which is my problem more than anything.
Look, this is the look that Jeff Bridges was rocking, right? He did Crazy Heart right before this, I think, where he had this god look. And then he did True Grit, where he basically became Rooster Cogburn for the rest of his life after that.
I just... It's not the beard, okay? I have no problem with Jeff Bridges rocking a beard. He suits it very well. So, you know, I don't know. Like, there's little moments in the film like that like come off as a bit lame to me, and I just kind of like it takes me out of it because I'm like, this is a bit hokey.
That's too bad because it's a good movie.
You don't have to get butthurt.
You don't have to be so cynical. Can't you be like a glass is half full kind of guy?
I'm just explaining why I don't love it and what I like and what I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't take very well to someone saying they don't like something you like. That's
because
all.
Everything I like is great.
That's healthy.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Okay, so yeah, Sam and Cora get out, and earlier in the film when they had a little heart-to-heart, she talks about how she imagines what a sunrise is like, and so he takes her, the last moment of the film is him like showing her a sunrise. After he tells Alan that he's going to take the company back and stop them from doing all these nefarious, things, evil corporation.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's seen his dad, who is very much like him in the beginning of the film, where he's like, I don't want to get involved. Like, I'd rather just wait things out and let everyone else destroy themselves. But now he's taking responsibility because he's seen that in order to survive and to for the right people to win, like, this is what you have to do. You have to get involved.
Okay, yeah.
There's arcs, man.
I'm not saying that. I never once said there wasn't an arc. I agree, there is an arc. There's an arc. He doesn't care at the start of the movie, and he wants to take responsibility by the end. I'm not saying that isn't there. It's there. Yeah. I'm glad you like it. Okay, I am.
I do. I think it's really good.
I'm glad you're into this. I think it's not bad. It's got some nice moments. It's got some nice music, certainly. But I don't know. I never really get away from kind of just kind of the simplistic adventure part of it. Just kind of feels like, oh, here's the MacGuffin, here's this middleman we have to go see, and then it's the race to the finish line. Like it's there's nothing about it that feels like it does anything super different from the original. It kind of, in a lot of ways, it feels like because it's trying to like kickstart into like a franchise with this one, it's kind of just sort of trying to repackage a lot of the things the original did in a way that works for a modern audience, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think it added anything super exciting to me that was like, oh, that's your new spin on this. That's the thing that makes me go ooh and ah, and like. I think it's missing that spark for me. So
this is one of the most ooh and ah movies I've ever seen. I just think the world is visually just so stimulating. The music is excellent. I think the major themes are present, maybe not overt, but like they're there, and there's a lot to analyze in that. I think the world is just so innovative and cool that I can't help but love it. Like, it was such a great theater experience, and I feel like I was the only one singing its praises then, and now I find myself in the same position.
I don't mean to leave you hanging. But funny enough, much like Oblivion, I think the ultra sleekness of it makes it feel a little sterile to me, and I don't find it as interesting.
I've always been that way too. I also enjoy things that are make clicky sounds when you press them and are very, you have to turn dials and, pull down on latches and things like that.
But it extends beyond the visuals though, and like the sets and things like that. Like even the plot feels very like very clean. It's very neat, right? It's doing sort of like typical. Like I think Clue is a villain. Well, you're right. There is stuff to analyze about how his relationship to like the creator and like kind of he's like an alternate son. Like there's definitely stuff to talk about. It's not. I'm not saying it's completely devoid of some depth, but I think how he actually functions in the movie as the villain who has a henchman who comes chasing after the guy. He's got a ship. It does feel like he's just taken out of like a Star Wars movie or something and putting into this in terms of how he operates as a character.
Speaking of that henchman, do you know who he is?
Yeah, he's Frayne. Who was in Star Trek? He was
James Frayne.
He's Sarek in the new shows, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you mentioned him, he's just kind of this like. He's always trying to kiss Clue's ass.
Yeah, he's Wormtongue. He's the little Weasley guy that sits next to the guy in charge. He's easily swayed and, not a good program.
Yeah. Which is whatever. I didn't really feel particularly much for his character, but
I mean he got a laugh out of me a couple of times. There was one when they're like raiding or checking out Flynn's place, his hideout, and it just cuts to him and he's like knocked something over and he's just looking out like a frozen, like a deer in the headlights or like a dog that just got in trouble. I thought that was always pretty funny.
And then Clue just kills him in like a moment of anger later on.
Well, he does betray him, right?
Well, yeah, he's too scared to fight back against Sam when he shows up. So
yeah, so he just tells him like where to go.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a weasel. That's what he is. So yeah, I think one of the things that I think the movie might have benefited from, and the original, like I kind of had this problem in the original as well. I kind of wish that there was a sort of B plot in the real world that was like concurrent with what was going on in the grid. It's something that I wanted in the original as well, where you'll go back and see Alan and the ex-girlfriend like trying to solve a problem out there too that could sort of link into what's going on. And I kind of like missed that here too. And I don't know who you would go to because there's less characters, but
part of the problem is also that they established that time works differently inside the grid. Like when Sam sees his dad for the first time and says, "Hey, it's been a long time," and he says to him like, "You have no idea how long it's been for me. Like it's been ages."
Yeah, I suppose. I just think it would, I don't know, break it up a little bit and like, because at one point he says, "Hey, if we get to the outside, it's easy to deal with Clue out there. We can just couple of things on a keyboard and that's him. He's gone. Like we can just deal with him." And I like the idea of like seeing. Like, it would make the world feel more kind of entrenched in some kind of rule if we see, like, the other side of this out in the real world. If, like, let's say Alan comes to the arcade and, like, sort of recognizes that he's went missing just like his dad did and tries to, figure it out and maybe he does something that instrumentally helps him. Maybe he opens... Because remember, Flynn says that the portal can only be opened from the outside. What if it did close? What if they thought they were trapped again? And then like, the saving of the day is actually that in the real world, Alan figures it out and turns it back on. And, something simple, just something else to kind of break it up a little bit and give it another thing. And plus, more Bruce Boxleitner would be.
Yeah, I was going to say. Plus, you just want more Sheridan in your movie.
Well, he's Commander Sheridan, damn it. What can I say? All right, I guess we're ready to rate the movie. Look, I think it's perfectly fine. It's it's definitely inoffensive. There's nothing that I want to rage and be mad about. But there's also a few silly moments and some things that I think just feel a bit hollow.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think this movie is very subtle but very flashy. Like the actual themes and subtext of the film is not really, it's not overt. It's not, you have to like analyze it. Like it's not telling you everything, it's just showing you everything that you need to know. Like even the beginning part, there's a lot of just setting things up by saying, okay, he's good at this stuff. And, he doesn't have to have lines like, well, you left me, and that's why I had to like become a bad boy for attention from my mom and blah blah blah.
Hold on. I want to just interject here that what you're describing is it not being badly written. And while you should praise it for not being badly written, I also don't think you should praise it too much for not being bad, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm saying that it's a good movie because like I like that it does that kind of stuff. Like
yeah.
I like that it does the show not tell, because like so many films have that problem.
I agree. That's bad when they do it. Yeah,
clunky expositions, but they don't do that in this. I also think it benefits on a rewatch. Like you see a lot more parallels in the outside world versus what's happening inside the grid. Even the speech thing, it may sound familiar when you hear it the second time, but when you watch it again, you're like, oh, they're the exact same thing because they were the same person then. Like things just click really well. And I love this world. I think it's so creative, so cool. And I do like the original a lot too, but I like this one more. I saw this one in theaters and I loved it then. I still love it now. I don't mind being a defender against all the haters out there. But
don't point at me. I don't hate it. And my score will reflect
this
that.
Guy here. This guy. But I'm gonna go high. I'm gonna give it a 9.
9? Jesus.
I told you I love the film.
Well, it's going to be a sexy score when you put them next to each other, because I'm giving it a 6.
Gross.
Yeah, I just, I like watching it again, especially. I was a little bored for like the back half of it. It slows down a bit, and the action stuff, especially all the flying around stuff, it is kind of just a bunch of CG ultimately. And geography doesn't really mean much when you get to those bits, because like they're just kind of in an endless ocean with nothing there really, other than some like random pillars. So, stuff like that, I do think detracts from what the action is trying to do in terms of its actual, like thrills, if you will. I'm getting such evil looks with Tara.
Just waiting.
But yeah, so it's a 6 out of 10. I think it's inoffensive. It's got some fine things in it. I do think the music's really good, but it didn't leave much of an impression either. And I think the original is better and more important, even though I don't like that one that much either, just because I think the plot is kind of dull once it gets to the second half. Which I guess this, I think, kind of shares with it in a weird way. But I appreciate that first film a lot more because of the techniques it's using, and I think the look is more interesting than this one is. And the thing I'm not allowed to mention again is obviously a mark against it. So 6 out of 10, but not bad. Like you say, the writing is not like super dumbed down for the most part. It sets up the things, it gives you the information, and lets you piece some of the themes together yourself, like any good writing should. So, yeah.
You deserve the Jared Leto version of this movie. This is what you get because you don't like this one. We don't get a sequel. Instead, you get a remake, and it's all for you.
Yeah, but I don't care if they run this into the ground. I don't like
the Tron you deserve.
I don't like that I'll have to watch it for a review. I dislike that part, but Jared Leto being put in something I care about more would be more upsetting.
Morbid time. I can't wait to watch that. I have to watch it.
Come on, this wasn't that painful, was it, Tara?
Hurts my soul.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, next time is episode 200, if you can believe that, and we're going to be talking about District 9, so look forward to that. You can, of course, get bonus content. Our patrons voted, Tara. That's what
I want receipts.
Right.
District 9 was like choice number 3.
Tara, I'm sorry to say RoboCop was in last place, right? Back to the Future was second. District 9 was the winner.
But Back to the Future RoboCop were both tied for first. What happened?
More people voted. That's how it works.
I want receipts. Receipts or no review next week.
You can get them. You can get bonus content on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Every month we have a bonus episode. We've recently done Species 3 and 2 as well. I suppose we did that a little bit further back. In fact, I think
we did Gamera.
Funnily enough, I think the next bonus episode might be the 50th bonus episode. So
whoa,
there's a whole back catalogue,
and it's a doozy too.
Oh, I just remembered what we're doing next.
Yep.
Tara's insisting the next bonus episode be Theodore Rex. So if you want to hear us talk about Theodore goddamn Rex, then go pay the $3 and have at it, I suppose.
Turns out it's on YouTube.
That'll be a few weeks away. Yeah, that's not super. Meltdown, which is the bonus show at the $5 tier and up, where we just talk about what movies we've been watching, what games we've been playing. But we do a sci-fi movie quiz at the start of the show for each other, so there's a bit of sci-fi related stuff. But mostly it's just a sort of general, hey, let's talk about movies and video games and shit. That is at the $5 tier and up, and that has a new episode going out. I'll already be up with this because we're recording this one a little bit in advance, so that'll already be up. So there'll be a new, fresh one of that's just went out. But yeah, you get those every month. There's bonuses for streams after midnight. Well, usually Tim's on paternity leave right now, but there's bonuses for the collector's cut. So yeah, bunch of stuff. Go check it out. But that's my plugging. Thank you for joining us. Support the content. Like, subscribe, ding the bell. Let us know what you think of Tron Legacy in the comments.
Sound off if you're on Team Tara.
They're always on Team Tara, though.
I know, because you're a stinker.
They just like you
you're
more
just
than
a
me.
big old grump.
I'm very positive about some things. You want to hear me be positive? Go and find the streams after midnight for Terrifier 2. I was glowing on Terrifier 2. I had an out-of-body experience watching that movie.
That's a good movie.
Yeah. Tron Legacy. Check the time a couple times. It's like, how long's left?
How long is left for this review?
Seconds, Tara. Mere seconds. That's been the show, everyone. Thank you for watching. I've upset Tara, but that's okay. I'll lure her back for next time. Keep watching science fiction. A computer. Add salsa.